All right, today we've got a story for you that is just, wow. It's a story about survival, about what happens when your world is turned upside down in a war zone. But it's also about a family's love that just refused to break, and one man's incredible journey from a prison cell all the way back home. Let's dive in.
So this is the quote that really kicks things off. It's from the man at the very heart of this story, Rakesh Mishra. I thought the war would end in 2 or 3 months. Hearing that now, it's just filled with this hope that was about to be tested in the most brutal way possible. He had no idea what was coming.
So, who is Rakesh Mishra? To really get what he went through, we first have to understand why he was there in the first place. And his dream, well, it was a simple one. It's a dream so many people have when they travel far from home for work, just to build a better life for their family.
Okay, so here are the basics. He's a 32-year-old mechanic from Odisha in India. And back in late 2022, he packs his bags and takes a job in Sudan as a machine operator. Now, the salary wasn't huge or anything, but for him and his wife, Sasmita, it was a big deal. It was their ticket, a chance at stability, a more secure future for them both. But that dream, that hope for a stable future, it was on a collision course with a really brutal reality. The country he'd moved to was about to explode. And this right here is the moment everything changed. Just look at this timeline. It's insane how fast his world completely fell apart. He gets there November 2022. Just 5 months later, in April 2023, the civil war erupts. The factory he works at shuts down. His paychecks stop coming. But get this, his employer, because of his 3-year contract, insisted he stay. Can you imagine? No job, no money, in the middle of a war zone, and he couldn't even leave. He was completely, utterly trapped. And just when you think it can't possibly get any worse, it does. He's alone, he's broke, he's stuck in a war zone, and then he hears a knock at his door. This is what happened next. He was taken by armed fighters from the Rapid Support Forces. They dragged him to a place called Mina Jail, and they accused him of being a spy, of having ties to the Sudanese army. They assaulted him, they locked him in this tiny, dim room, and he was forced to survive on just bread and biscuits. For weeks on end, he was just living in this constant, paralyzing fear.
But here's where the story takes a turn. Because this story has another hero, and she's 3,000 kilometers away in India. His wife, Sasmita. She just refused to let him disappear. She refused to let him be forgotten. And this is where the real fight for his life began.
Okay, so look at this number. 2 lakh rupees. That's about $2,400 US. Now, over the course of a year, his wife Sasmita managed to get this money to Sudan. And you might think, okay, was this a ransom? No, it wasn't to buy his freedom. It was for something so much more basic. It was to keep him alive.
And the story behind that money, it's just heartbreaking. To scrape that cash together, Sasmita sold every single piece of her wedding jewelry. Think about that. Every single thing that held a memory of their life together, she sold it. The price of his survival was literally everything she owned. But even in all that darkness, in that awful cell, there was this one tiny flicker of hope. He was given a phone, just for 5 minutes a day. It was this small act of mercy from a single guard. And you better believe those 5 minutes were everything. That was it. That was his only link to his wife, to his family, to the world he thought he'd lost forever. It was a lifeline. It was the one thing that kept hope from being totally extinguished in that small, dark room. Hearing his voice on those short, precious calls, well, it just fueled his family's fight even more. They started knocking on every door they could think of, contacting every official. And their absolute refusal to give up, that's what finally got the wheels turning on a very complex rescue mission.
So how did they pull this off? Well, the family's pleas finally reached the Indian government. And then you have all these different groups starting to work together. The Ministry of External Affairs, the Indian Embassy in Sudan, and the International Committee of the Red Cross. I mean, it was a massive diplomatic effort, all to save one man.
And once the pieces were in place, look how fast it all happened. It's incredible. After months and months in that jail, his release is finally secured on a Tuesday. And by Wednesday, the very next day, Rakesh Mishra was on a flight, landing back on Indian soil. He was home.
Now, Rakesh's journey home is just an incredible story on its own. But it's so much more than that, right? His story makes us step back and ask some much bigger questions. When you boil it down, this is a story about so many things. It's about the huge risks that migrant workers often take just trying to build a better life. It's about the incredible, profound power of a family's love and sacrifice. And yeah, it's also about the duty of a government to protect its citizens, no matter how far away they are from home. It touches on all of it. And that brings us to this final thought, this one last question. For Rakesh, his hope for a better life cost him his freedom. For his wife, it cost her every precious memory, embedded in her wedding jewelry. So it really makes you wonder, what is the true cost of hope? But for Rakesh Mishra, after so many months of darkness, the story finally ends with light. He's safe. He's home. And he is surrounded by the love that never, ever gave up on him. Welcome home, brother. Welcome home.